Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 11330 Southwest 55th Avenue here in Portland. Located at the back of the house, that's as you face the front door from the street. We've got a big 4-inch ABS clean out here. We're on the backyard side of the fence. If you go to that fence gate, you're kind of into the patio garage area. This is the backyard area. We've got a 4-inch ABS clean out, checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running. We are zeroed out, and off we go. And so you'll note it, well, you may have noticed, it may not be that super obvious to people that don't look at sewers all day, but the clean out's very shallow. And this house does have a basement with a bathroom in it, which typically you're gonna have a line that starts out about 7 feet deep or so when that's the case. In this circumstance, the line comes out like a standard crawl space home, very shallow depth. I can reach my hand to the bottom of this thing, about a foot deep or so right here at the foundation wall. The basement floor has an ejector system in it. So very similar to like a sump pump. Once the tank fills up, float will go up, kicks on a switch, and boom, the thing ejects all that sewage uphill to where the line can then take over by gravity. I apologize, I cannot figure out why my camera is remaining upside down like it is. It doesn't bother my eyeballs at all, but it's probably a little funny to look at. Looks like we just changed diameters there. Or materials at the very least. Yeah, it looks like we're into concrete pipe now. And typically this area of home has 6-inch concrete. Alright, there's the main connection there. Some of that grease off my camera. Alright, we're going to go locate the camera head here. This is the main at about 80 feet out. Pretty nice looking sewer line thus far. Alright, I located the camera head successfully. Line goes out to, sorry, I'll pull up my GPS here. I couldn't see the name from where I was at. Out to Buddington. So the side street directly to the right of the house. It's as you face the front door from Southwest 55th. That's how I describe everything. So line shoots out the back of the house, hangs a right-hand turn, and definitely does not go straight out to that road. It snakes all over the place, but it ends up over there. The line kind of, it parallels across the back of the house. Rather than continuing on straight to the road, it kind of cuts back in front of the right side of the home, and then it straightens out to shoot off to the street. Now, my understanding is we are in Multnomah County, making most, if not all, of that concrete pipe in front of us city territory there. In fact, I'm going to go locate really quick just to see where the transition is. There is an earthworm in front of me there. You can see that. And likely that little dude came through this joint right here, which is just, it's a little bit out of whack. Concrete pipe, though, which is typically grouted, doesn't have the same luxuries that plastic pipe does. When it starts to shift, it is often the result of the grout that seals it up wearing out, which then slowly exposes that joint to the ground, and you know, which is likely how that worm got in here. So anyway, from a technical standpoint, that joint there it does appear to be exposed to the ground. It's hardly doing anything to affect functionality or flow anyway, but joints like that, slowly but surely over time, can indeed lead to hydro erosion and cause progressive settling. Sometimes it's aggressive, sometimes it's very subtle, and hardly moves at all. It's a very difficult thing to predict. I'm actually going to push out and mark this one here. What's hard about this particular street here is it does not have your traditional sidewalk and curb to go off of. And if I'm going off of what I've been told here. You know, if this is indeed Multnomah County, generally speaking, everything from curb to curb or from the face of the curb to the other face of the curb is city territory. I'm picking this up. It feels like I'm going to go locate again here, but just off to the side of the street by a little way. So I'm going to mark this. This is one I would check with the city on. They obviously didn't take this update all the way to the end of the line. So if we are in Multnomah County, I think someone was aiming to not repair city pipe, but it's possible this stopped shy of where the street edge actually is. I don't know where they deem that in a case like this, being that there's no sidewalk and curb to go off of. I don't know where that technicality falls in a circumstance like this. So I'm going to mark this with a white X. Again, actually, and the line runs pretty darn close to where the water meter is. It doesn't cut over as far in front of the right side of the house as I originally thought it did. All right, and I wanted to clarify, when I said water meter, I mean it runs in a line very near where the water meter is at. Where this is located here is not where the water meter is. But looks like the lines, those two lines run very near each other. Anyway, I'm getting 9 foot 6 inches deep here. It's down there a ways. So this is one that, you know, for instance, if it happens from time to time, where someone takes a repair to the right of way rather than the street edge, thinking that's where city territory takes over, and you've got, 5 feet of pipe or so still on property within homeowner responsibility. This is one where if it's feasible to, I would look into epoxy lining versus digging this. It's very, very deep. The line still has good slope and grade to it. If you lined over that joint, you will have just a subtle, tiny little bump there. As it sits right now, that joint is doing essentially nothing to affect functionality. So if you could do this in a trenchless manner, I would recommend going that route. It would be a big cost savings for one thing. You also don't run the risk of and that right there is where one of the other lines ties into that may actually be the ejector line or the kitchen line. Anyway, anytime you go cutting into and splicing into old pipe, your likelihood for settling problems goes up dramatically. After 25,000 scopes now, the amount of repairs I've seen done where they're connecting on to older pipe materials, it's very easy to just disrupt the ground around the older materials you're going to leave in place, and then end up with an offset joint. So it doesn't happen every time, but it's a fairly common occurrence. So there's a few reasons why I would look into doing the trenchless epoxy liner route on that. Oh, looks like that might have a little piece of, that looks like the remnants of a knockout plate. At first glance, almost kind of has a root kind of appearance to it, but if you look up, which right now ends up kind of at the top right-hand corner of the screen, that looks like a little piece of plastic knockout plate that's remaining. I'm going to locate and see where that's at to see if it's in the vicinity of anything with tree roots or could have tree roots, but that looks more like a knockout plate. I've seen plenty of them. Yeah, so I'm located on the side of the garage here. Just from a liability standpoint, I'm going to call this a possible, emphasize possible, route here. I would try and pull up the old video. In fact, if you get that sent over to me, I'll take a look at it to see if it looks exactly the same. If it was a knockout plate, that thing's been there since this line was installed, and you'll have the very same appearance there. If we see that something has changed in that span of time, we can hone in a little better on that potentially being something to be concerned about. But that looks more like a knockout plate that may have got a little tiny debris stuck to it. And the thing is small enough that I'm not even really concerned about you doing drain cleaning on it. There's hardly anything there. All right, so we're in the little planter strip along the left side of the garage. It's as you face the garage door. Another way to find it, if you find the electrical meter at the back of the house, stand with your back to that, walk in a straight line towards the garage, you'll run pretty much right into my X marking. So anyway, I'd like to see the video done, I think it was a couple years back, to see if that looks just the same there. You may not have a little bit of debris stuck to it, but you will have the knockout plate remnant remaining at the very least. And it looks like we just had the dishwasher discharge here. That water's all moving we're looking at right now. And the nice part there, if that does indeed turn out to potentially be a root, it's extremely shallow right there. It's only about 2 feet deep. So I wanted to emphasize that marking there, I would not consider that a repair marking yet. until we review the old video to see if we're seeing the same stuff there or not. If that looks entirely new, we may have something to be a little more concerned about. And then the line next down to such a small diameter going back, I'm not going to try and push past that lip. It looks like it's 3-inch pipe going back into the house there. Actually, that might be 4-inch. It may have just been the way they constructed it. I just don't want to beat the camera head up. Alrighty. As it relates to flow, line has good flow, the main lateral. Aside from a couple question marks there, again, the spot is 69 feet. The joint there is indeed compromised, not affecting flow as it sits right now, but it's letting earthworms in. I can promise you, if a worm can get in there, groundwater and dirt also can feasibly do that too. And that's where your potential for hydro erosion can occur. So anyway, that's marked with a white X out near the gravel street, side street. You'll see the X marking out there. I wrote 9'6" or 9'5" inches deep there on the ground. I would contact the city and find out if they can tell you whose territory that falls into. If it does fall into homeowners' territory, I recommend a full update from the ABS to concrete transition all the way to the end of homeowner responsibility, which could be more than just that pipe joint. You could be about a 5-foot swath of ground, or pipe, I mean. So if you go the liner route, line that whole section from that part to that part, you know, even extend it a little past that point even, just to ensure if for instance, a root intrusion or something ever came through, if it goes through that transition, at least it's doing it in city responsibility and not right on the dividing line. And then I want to review the old video for that spot at 28 feet to see if we're seeing the same stuff there. Otherwise, the rest of the line here looks like it's in good condition, has good flow. Overall, line has good flow in general and is functioning properly at this time as it relates to flow. That concrete pipe, obviously, not a completely watertight sewer pipe there in that particular location, so not functioning properly in that regard to its entirety anyway. All the ABS pipe looks sealed up, again, aside from a possible question mark there at 28 feet.